So, picture this. It's the summer of 1914, and Europe, well, it's basically a powder keg just waiting to go off. There's this regional conflict that's starting to explode, but the biggest superpower on the planet, the British Empire, is really hoping to sit this one out. But then, one single decision changes everything. It drags them right into the mess, and in a flash, it turns a European war into the first real World War.
I mean, how wild is that? A 75-year-old piece of paper. How does something like that pull the world's biggest empire into the Great War? It sounds almost unbelievable, right? That some old, dusty treaty could be the tripwire for total global catastrophe. But, well, that's exactly what happened. So let's get into it. Let's unpack how a promise made decades before became a debt that, tragically, had to be paid in blood.
Okay, so our story here doesn't actually start with guns and explosions. It starts with diplomacy. To really get what lit the fuse back in 1914, we've got to rewind way back to 1839 and look at this document that was specifically designed to keep the peace. So, the Treaty of London. The absolute key phrase here is guaranteed neutrality. All the big players in Europe at the time, we're talking Britain, Prussia, which would later become Germany, they all got together and agreed. Belgium is officially neutral. It's a buffer state. This meant Belgium couldn't join any military alliances, and in exchange, everyone promised its borders were completely untouchable. Think of it like a permanent, internationally recognized safe zone. And here's the really crucial part. Britain wasn't just another country that signed the treaty. Nope, they were a guarantor. That's a huge deal. It meant they had a special, legally binding responsibility to step in and defend Belgium if anyone ever violated that neutrality. And for Britain, this wasn't just about honor, it was pure hard-nosed security. Keeping the ports in Belgium out of the hands of a rival power, that was absolutely essential to British defense strategy. So while Britain is busy guaranteeing peace and stability, another major power is, well, they're actively planning for war. And their master plan? It involves driving a metaphorical tank right through the heart of that promise made back in 1839. Okay, so here's the deal with Germany's big strategic gamble, the Schlieffen Plan. Their absolute worst nightmare was having to fight a war on two fronts at the same time, against France in the west and Russia in the east. The Schlieffen Plan was their wild all-or-nothing solution. The idea was, hey, instead of banging our heads against the super strong French border, let's just go around it. They planned to swing their army like a giant hammer through neutral Belgium, outflank the French, and take Paris in just a few weeks. But the whole thing, the entire plan, hinged on one single thing: incredible speed. And this really gets to the core of the absolutely ruthless calculation they made. The German generals, they knew invading Belgium was against international law. They weren't dumb. They knew it would probably tick off Britain. But they rolled the dice. They gambled that a super fast victory was worth the risk. They were betting that Britain wouldn't actually go to war over what the German chancellor famously and dismissively called a mere scrap of paper. Well, that gamble was about to be called. Fast forward to August 1914. Europe is tipping over the edge into war, and Germany decides it's time to put the Schlieffen Plan into action. That first domino is about to get pushed over, and the sound it makes is going to be heard all around the world. Just look at how fast things fell apart. August 2nd, Germany demands to pass through Belgium. The very next day, August 3rd, Belgium says, no way, and boom, German troops are already pouring across the border. For Britain, this was it. A line in the sand had just been crossed. They sent an ultimatum to Germany. Get out of Belgium, now, or it's war. So the whole world just kind of holds its breath. Germany's war machine is already in motion, and there's no way it's going to stop now. This leaves the British government with a truly terrible choice. Do they honor that old treaty and throw their entire empire into a massive war? Or do they just step aside and let Germany completely dominate Europe? And this is where you see these two completely different mindsets just slam into each other. On one side, you have Germany saying, look, this invasion is a military necessity. We have to do it to win quickly. And on the other side, you have Britain saying, hold on, we have a legal and moral duty to uphold this treaty. Plus, they were furious about a big country invading a small one. And let's be honest, there was also the cold, hard fact that if Germany controlled the Belgian coast, it would be a massive threat to Britain. There was just no middle ground here. These two positions could not coexist. The deadline came and went. Germany didn't even blink. They completely ignored the ultimatum. And so, at 11 o'clock at night, London time, on August 4th, 1914, it was official. The British Empire was at war. Germany's gamble had failed, spectacularly. And the consequences, well, they were going to be absolutely catastrophic. And that one declaration of war changed everything. What had started as a conflict stuck in the middle of Europe was about to go completely global. Now, this is maybe the most important takeaway of this whole story. When Britain declared war, it wasn't just Britain declaring war. They weren't acting alone. The second they were in, so was their entire global empire. By law, by loyalty, all the dominions and colonies, the whole shebang, were automatically at war too. The scale of this fight just got magnified by like 1,000. All of a sudden, you've got soldiers mobilizing in Canada, in Australia, in India. Resources from all across Africa and Asia are now being funneled into the war effort. What was supposed to be a squabble between European neighbors, it now had soldiers fighting and dying from pretty much every corner of the globe. And just like that 75-year-old scrap of paper, that old promise to protect little Belgium, it became the tripwire that turned the Great War into a world war. Germany's brilliant plan for a quick, contained victory had done the exact opposite. It had lit a fire that was now burning across the entire planet. So it really makes you think, doesn't it? How different would the entire 20th century have been if military plans had been forced to actually respect diplomacy? This whole story is just such a powerful reminder of how easily cold strategic calculations can just toss solemn promises out the window. And it shows how one single decision can kick off a chain reaction that completely changes the world. I mean, that's a lesson from 1914 that feels just as important today.